a 2-year-old boy goes to sleep in his sister's bed. His family is home, his sister is feet away, and a Doberman is outside, an alert dog that supposedly barks at everything. Then, sometime between 5 a.m. and 7:30 a.m., Ryan Hoeffliger disappears. No screaming, no banging doors, no barking dog, no signs of forced entry. And 7 hours later, his body is found 2 miles away under a dock at Hayden Lake in freezing winter conditions, wearing only a diaper. But here's the part that still haunts investigators. His feet were clean, no scratches, no signs of walking through frozen ground and rugged terrain. And the diaper he was found in? It wasn't even the kind his parents used. So tonight we're talking about a case that doesn't just feel tragic, it feels wrong. This is the disappearance and death of Ryan Hoeffliger. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Missing Persons Archives, the channel where we document real missing persons cases, strange disappearances, and unresolved deaths that leave families with questions and investigators with nothing but theories. If you appreciate deep dives like this, make sure you hit subscribe because these cases don't stay alive unless people keep talking about them. Now let's get into the story. Ryan's case occurred in what many researchers call a cluster zone. A cluster zone is basically an area where disappearances happen at a rate far beyond what anyone would consider normal, where cases stack up in strange patterns. And Ryan's disappearance happened near the Idaho/Washington border, just a few miles northeast of Kootenai, in a small town called Hayden, Idaho. If you've never seen the geography out there, it's important. Hayden is quiet, rural, and surrounded by wilderness. And on its eastern side sits Hayden Lake, about 40 miles of shoreline, elevated more than 2,200 feet above sea level. To the east of the lake, you're looking at heavily wooded areas and mountains, isolated terrain, the kind of place where people can disappear and never be found. Ryan Hoeffliger was just 2 years old, a toddler. He lived with his family in a home located around 2 miles west of Hayden Lake. At the time, there were 4 people sleeping in the home, including Ryan. The family also had a Doberman pinscher, and that dog was asleep outside in the backyard. Now, here's an important detail. At some point before this incident, Ryan had broken his crib. So instead of sleeping alone, he was sleeping in his sister Shauna's bed, in her room. And that's where the timeline begins. The night Ryan disappears. It's the night of January 10th, 1984, going into January 11th. Around 5 a.m., Shauna wakes up and goes to the bathroom. When she returns to the room, she sees Ryan still in bed. She later said he was lying where he normally did, between the wall and where she slept. And Shauna also said she thought she might have heard the dog barking at that time, but she couldn't be sure. She gets back into bed and goes back to sleep. Then, at around 7:30 a.m., Shauna wakes up again and Ryan is gone. Not out of the room, not in the hallway, not playing somewhere in the house. Gone. She immediately runs into her parents' bedroom and wakes them up. At first, the family assumes Ryan is hiding because toddlers do that, but within minutes, panic sets in because Ryan doesn't respond. And something else becomes obvious very quickly. All of the doors in the home are closed, and all of them are locked, except the front door, which wasn't locked because the lock was broken. Something the family already knew needed replacing. They search again and again. Ryan isn't there, so they call authorities and report him missing. The deputy arrives, and nothing makes sense. A deputy from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office arrives and begins interviewing the family. Ryan's parents point out something chilling. Ryan knew how to open some doors, but he never closed them. Never. Which means, if Ryan had opened doors to get out, the family expected doors to be open, maybe swinging, maybe cracked. But the house is sealed up. Shauna tells the deputy she's certain Ryan was in bed at 5 a.m., but she didn't hear the dog barking later, and that matters because the family insisted something else. The Doberman barked if anyone opened the door, family included. It didn't matter who. Door opens, dog barks. So if Ryan somehow got out, the dog should have been barking like crazy. But no one heard anything. Not the dog, not squeaky doors, nothing. And one more detail. The parents said the Doberman was behaving strangely, unusually lethargic. The deputy checks points of entry. No forced entry, no broken windows, no signs of someone coming in. Then the call goes out for more help. Investigators begin thinking through the geography. Because if Ryan somehow left the house and walked straight toward Hayden Lake, he would have had to cross major roads, a golf course, fairways, and pass dozens of homes. 40, 50 residential houses. In winter, in freezing temperatures, barefoot, in a diaper. That would be noticed. But while searchers are combing the area, about 7 hours after Ryan is reported missing, a volunteer searcher finds Ryan's body under a dock on the west side of Hayden Lake. The dock belonged to a seasonal home. No one was living there. Ryan is wearing only a diaper, and command staff immediately feels something is off, because there is no way a 2-year-old walked 2 miles through freezing conditions and didn't leave evidence. So officers examine his feet. And what they find is terrifying. No scratches, no abrasions, no injuries consistent with a long trek through the woods and rough terrain. Ryan had gone to bed wearing pajama bottoms. But those pajama bottoms were never found. Dive teams searched the lake. Nothing. No clothing, no evidence, no explanation. Ryan's body is sent for autopsy. Initially, authorities cite murder as the cause of death, but later reporting, including an article from the Spokesman Review on December 24, 1985, stated that autopsy results indicated he had drowned, though the results were not conclusive. Probable drowning. And this is something we see repeatedly in cases like this. A person disappears under bizarre conditions, then turns up in water, and the cause of death comes back as probable drowning. But probable doesn't mean proven. It means this is the best guess. Federal testing and a federal-level autopsy also failed to determine the actual cause of death. And that is extremely important, because when even the best forensic resources can't give you certainty, you're left with questions. Because of the Doberman's lethargic behavior, investigators test the dog. If someone abducted Ryan, maybe they drugged the dog, maybe poisoned it. But tests came back negative. No drugs, no poison, nothing unusual. So the dog is quiet, but not drugged, and Ryan vanishes. But there's no forced entry, and he ends up in the lake, but there's no evidence he walked there. And now we get to one of the most disturbing details of this entire case. The diaper Ryan was found in was not the type of diaper his parents used, which strongly suggests that at some point between the bed and the dock, Ryan was with someone else. Because a 2-year-old doesn't swap diapers himself. And if he was carried or transported, it begins to explain the pristine feet, but it creates a much darker implication. Now let's be honest. There are only a few realistic explanations, and every single one has problems. Theory 1, Ryan wandered out. This is the simple explanation, but it collapses under scrutiny because he would have had to open doors quietly, close, squeaky doors, not wake his sister, not wake the parents, not trigger the dog, walk 2 miles barefoot in freezing temps, cross major roads, pass dozens of homes, and still have clean feet. It's not impossible, but it's close. Theory 2, abduction. An abductor would have to enter without waking anyone, leave with Ryan silently, avoid triggering the dog, avoid leaving forced entry evidence, evade massive searching, and then dump a body in a residential lake neighborhood. And that last part is key. Why dump a body at Hayden Lake when there's endless isolated wilderness nearby? It's risky. It's exposed. It doesn't make sense unless the point wasn't to hide him, unless the point was the lake. Theory 3, something happened inside the home. This is where the case gets uncomfortable, because the timeline suggests whatever happened to Ryan happened between 5 o'clock and 7:30 a.m. in a home with people nearby, and yet nobody hears anything. No struggle, no noise, no barking. Theory 4, the cluster zone pattern. And this is where some researchers go further. This is a region that people claim has a high concentration of strange disappearances. Remote woods, water recovery, sudden vanishings, cases where logic fails. Some people believe the wilderness in these areas has something else in it, something unseen, something predatory, something that doesn't follow normal rules. I'm not saying that's the answer, but I am saying this case is exactly the kind of case that causes people to believe it, because the facts don't line up with human logic. Ryan Hoeffliger's case remains open with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, and as recently as 2006, a cold case unit was assigned to reinvestigate. But no new leads turned up, no new explanation, no closure, just silence. Ryan Hoeffliger was just 2 years old, and this case is one of the most heartbreaking kinds of stories we cover, because it's not just about a disappearance. It's about a family waking up in the morning and realizing their reality has shattered and never getting an answer. So I'll ask you, what do you think happened to Ryan? Was it abduction, an accident, a cover-up, or something far stranger? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more cases like this, especially cluster zone disappearances where the facts refuse to make sense, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the missing deserve to be remembered and the unexplained deserves to be investigated. Until next time, stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next case.